Right, well, I'm very conscious of time, so I'll try and move through this at pace, but hopefully cover. When Chris first mentioned to me about this particular webinar, I thought the real value I could add, when Chris is the semiotic expert in this space, is my experience as a client of using semiotics in the methodology mix I take to my own clients, because a little bit about who I am, to hopefully frame where I use semiotics. Well, I founded and head up an organisation in Soho called Epiphany Productions, and we're just a small team of people who are just obsessed by content. You know, it's an age when every brand owner is a media owner now, and we like to use our brains, talent, curiosity, experience, not necessarily in that order, to research content and research behaviour around media. And we've got a really fantastic production network who use their storytelling skills to share insights through film and provide ideas with that necessary momentum to make them a reality and to instill new behaviours. I mean, one of our beliefs we like to always say is everybody's secondary business is show business, and I hope it'll become quite clear how semiotics fits into that as I proceed, because there's one other area that I'd like to bring to your attention that we work in. Oh, is that clicking through? That's good. Okay, I'm also, my own background is actually, and my own personal interests around cultural and contextual insight are based on my experience as an anthropologist and behavioural economist, and I'm very fortunate that I sit on the Cabinet Office think tank, the National Social Marketing Centre, where we get given some of the biggest social challenges around smoking cessation, sexual health, antisocial behaviour. And as you can imagine, when you're dealing with these almost insurmountable research challenges and communication issues, you really are forced to look beyond what you already know and to challenge your research assumptions. And while I've been developing a lot of an expert toolkit around behavioural change and behavioural economics, this has brought into my view the whole area of technology and technology adoption and social movements. And last year I initiated a new division called Permission, which is a social organisation around social innovation and social marketing using technology, which is such a thrilling space to work in as a researcher, because nobody claims to know everything, and all research is therefore stimulating new ideas. And it's a really ideal space for progressive research minds, because we're unpacking possibility of change, and semiotics is of such value in any project that asks for you to unpack the reality of something. Semiotics can really provide that missing part of the puzzle, because when we're talking to our clients about why we're suggesting what we're suggesting, it's never a box-ticking exercise. It's always driven by this outcome. Whether the outcome is inspiration, confirmation of what you've thought already in-house, we're always looking to see how people in the organisation will react to what we're working on. And this is not about then looking for simply what the client suggests to us, what's easy to do, and in fact what we are feeling confident in doing. Very often we have to be thinking in new ways and looking to challenge assumptions that we have. Sorry, I'll just move on to the next slide now, which will tell you a little bit about how I actually know Chris. And I've known Chris for many years. We really solidified our relationship when I was actually the head of qualitative research at Millward Brown Firefly in Tokyo. When you walk around Tokyo, and this image of Shibuya Crossing is one of the best, I think, to convey why you cannot have your thinking dominated by science and codes. We spent a lot of time in Tokyo not talking about the Blade Runner dystopian view of the world dominated by science, but putting ourselves in the heart of a consumer culture that meant you could not avoid considering this. And Chris is I'm very fortunate that Chris is very fluent in Japanese as well, which is critical in order to be able to get to grips with that culture and those cultural truths. But I walked away from my time in Tokyo thinking, yes, culture does eat strategy for breakfast. I know this is a remark that's been attributed, sorry, that's clicked back, that's been attributed to both Peter Drucker and to Mark Fields, who I think was the president of Ford when he said it. But it's very true. Oh, sorry, that appear to have been, I can't see the arrows on my screen. Right. There we go. Sorry about this. There's a little glitch. So it's very, very important to be thinking about these cultural codes because for me, at least, culture provides a lens through which we view the world. I mean, it's absolutely central to how we see ourselves, to how we make sense of what we see, and how we express ourselves. And semiotics does provide me with a whole new tranche of stimulus and insight to be able to express this cultural viewpoint of the world. I mean, whilst it might sound, when you first hear the words, like something out of a Dan Brown novel, the truth is that it drives outcomes for my clients that really drive a whole new approach to storytelling. Because once we've got those codes in place, and there are 3 of those on screen right now, everybody has a very easy way to share the insights and to drive new behaviors, to populate their creative briefs, and to provide a gravity by which everybody can work towards and work around. Semiotics is a vital tool in creative development, and it reminds me of a quote of Wendy Gordon's, an old boss of mine, who said, if you are going to be creative, you've got to make links between seemingly disconnected elements. I don't think there's anyone on this call who doesn't regard themselves as curious, and as an anthropologist we are always looking into places, aren't we, that others don't want to look at, that are fearful of. We have to be naive strangers. We're comfortable having our assumptions challenged, and I think semiotics and semioticians only add to that in my mix of tools by presenting this cultural filter and narrative style, one in which clients see a whole new return on investment in a methodology that there wasn't necessarily on their radar before and in their toolkit. I mean, we talk about making the invisible visible, but I also like to think of semiotics as challenging behaviors around creativity and our understanding of cultures. Very often we only have one point of view, and semiotics forces us to think again and brings to the foreground a new way of thinking, like the image on screen right now, where we have to readjust ourselves, not significantly, but ever so slightly, to see another way of the world. And very often that way of the world is the way of the world that our consumers have, and the way of the world that we should be adopting. And once we have that perspective, we're able then to join dots. And this is particularly true, I would say, in packaging work, where the brand team, the insight team, and if there is a cultural pioneer in an organization, they all have their own perspective and their own value in driving forward creative development and packaging development. However, they're not all telling the whole story. Semiotics is a route to translating research findings into vital elements, those signs and those symbols. And this then joins the dots and gives us something that we can all agree on and focus on. And when I talk to my clients about using creative semiotics, I like to bring to their attention the need to address weaknesses that they might have in the way that they've worked in things in the past, which have not really driven them competitively in the way they've wanted and achieved the success, particularly in innovation and packaging, that they've sought. And the networked economy and increasing reliance on data and innovation has only forced clients to look to us to ask those difficult questions for them even more. I mean, that might be, to one end, disrupting uninspired research delivery, and to the other end, simply looking at their competitors in a way they've not looked at before. And a case in point is a project that Chris and I worked on with MTV, which hopefully will bring this to life a little bit, because as I'm sure we've all experienced, in FMCG marketing teams, in FMCG organizations rather, marketing teams own creativity and they have that black box in terms of insight. In the case of media organizations that I work with, marketing teams have to fight really hard to demonstrate their creative insight and to demonstrate their value in inspiring teams, as everybody is in the business of new ideas and creative development. So we were looking at a channel that had undergone refresh after refresh, had money poured into it, but continued to lose audience share. And to kick this project off, Semiotics was absolutely the right tool to provide fresh eyes and inspiration for the wider team. Intertextuality in particular really woke them up to the fact that when they looked at pop culture, they only looked at it within the narrow bandwidth of television, and they needed to understand what they were communicating about their brands beyond that. They were fighting with their competitors only within the space of TV, and they needed to look a lot wider, and Semiotics woke them up to that. And through behavioral economics interrogation as well, there were whole new areas around packaging and communication, on-screen experience, where Semiotics added a flavour and a disruption. And it was really valuable to be able to challenge a very cynical and creatively charged audience who thought that they understood everything there was to understand and couldn't necessarily work out what wasn't taking them forward in the direction they wanted to move in. I mean, it's unfair and I think unrealistic to propose that any of the methods that we hear about daily, that agencies use in order to win new business because it's fashionable, there is no silver bullet out there. But I was thinking, to wrap this up, it might be worth thinking about why Semiotics has moved from me to being a nice to have to something right at the heart of the methodological mix that I turn to when I'm looking at evaluating logo routes, when I'm looking at considering co-creation entries presented to me, when I'm looking for fresh understanding of a market opportunity or provocative rethinking of a brand asset. Semiotics is always in the mix, and it never used to be. And I'm reminded of a quote from Robert Frost, who said, "A critic is someone who pisses in a river and says, look at what a big stream I've made." And there were a number of reasons why Semiotics didn't come to me as quickly as I wish it had done, especially as I had Chris in my network. It was all too easy to think of it as too academic. Would I have the time to get up to speed with all this theory? Would I be able to convey it in the right way? Fortunately, having Chris on board, it was never turgid academic rigor. It was insightful, and it was valuable, and it was creative, and it continues to be. And I was also very concerned about whether my clients would be able to take this on board in themselves in order to pitch it and explain what it would look like. Sample grids are easy for all of us to hold on to. Speech bubbles are fantastic to convey verbatims. But semioticians are actually experts in codes, and they can give us the codes that we need in our work to give value to that work. And there has been an occasion, and I'm hopefully not going to embarrass Chris by saying this, when a client has talked of semiotics as offering stunt level thinking that he wanted to communicate to the entire business, but it was so disruptive and so big, he needed to have a number of codes to help him in this mission to take it across the business. So to wrap up at this stage and take any questions if there are, I can see we're coming up to 12 o'clock now. When we're thinking about the value of semiotics in the work that we do, for me it really does come down to 4 key elements. Why would I consider using semiotics? Why have I and will I continue to do so? It's a great contextual start point to any project that we undertake. It always, without exception, offers a new light and starts us thinking about things in a new way. It offers a fresh confidence to me and to my clients in all packaging decisions and decisions around co-creative routes. And I also find, as somebody who, we're not a huge organisation, and when clients need to talk to us about why they should bring us in to the mix of their insight work or of their innovation work, it's a fantastic conversation starter that gets people thinking again just about how they can frame this challenge internally. And semiotics, when explained in the right way and given those code elements for us all to be able to use, one that's easy to share and inspiring for our clients. So I hope that's given in the time that was available a sense of what we use semiotics for in our work and how valuable it's been to us and to our clients. So thanks so much for listening to that, and I hope it's been helpful.